I'm going to give a talk about the trip that Claire and I took to Iceland, and this first chart shows the the drive we did around the island. So we flew into Keflavik, we got taken up to Reykjavik, and then we rented a car. The volcano's down here, and we basically drove all the way around the island. This is a gannet colony that we visited, and we drove back to to Reykjavik. So I first flew to New York City, where Claire's been living and working at the hospital there, Columbia Presbyterian, and this is sort of symbolic of getting her home, getting her through medical school, and so she got her MD, and she's now going off to Yale for her residency. And I did spend a little time with her in New York City. This is a handstand at the Bronx Zoo. Her SO has a connection with the Bronx Zoo. He was the vet there for a long time, and so a fun handstand photo. But the main deal of this presentation is our trip to Iceland, and this is the first couple of days there. So we got taken to Reykjavik by car, and you'll see a photo of that. We got a rental car, and then we drove down to this area where the volcano is. So Iceland, is right on the mid-Atlantic ridge. It's splitting apart, and that's where the volcanoes come from. And this is a little more detailed picture of some of the volcanoes. So this new one is going off here. Nobody's exactly sure why. Katla is a big one down here, and there's others that I won't get into too much, but we'll see some of those. So even driving in from the airport, you're able to see the smoke from this newest volcano. Maybe I'll try to pronounce it later, but and then this is somebody else's photo, kind of a hero picture from across the bay from Reykjavik with a telephoto lens looking at the fountaining going up. We were lucky there. The day before we arrived at the volcano changed modes and had increased lava flow, and it went into this fountaining mode where it would be still for 7 or 8 minutes, and then it would go off with these fountains going up in the air. I say we had Iceland to ourselves. Basically, there weren't any tourists there yet. And so even when we went to our hotel, their restaurant wasn't open. So they gave us a bag of food for to eat, when we were first there. And this is Claire and I walking around Reykjavik our first day after we took our PCR test. Very, very pretty place. This is looking from our hotel room. This is a duck pond that we spent a fair amount of time. We're very interested in birding, and so we were looking at the ducks down there. You'll see that later. They were painting the streets, getting ready for the tourists while we were there. Those of you who know me know I like to take handstand photos, and here I am with Leif Erikson in front of this famous church there in Reykjavik. Now, I like the Icelandic attitude, pussies beware. So they're pretty tough people to live the way they do through the Icelandic winters. And this was the dinner of our first night there. We occasionally sort of treated ourselves, and the fish of the day was our favorite. Really enjoyed this restaurant. And then the next day, so this is where we drove. We drove down to Grindavik, and this is where we hiked into the volcano. And so the volcano was a pretty exciting deal. This talks about the trail getting there. We drove down and we found a parking lot out in here. And then it's a little over a 3-kilometer hike to the volcano. You hike down here along this, and then you hike up this ridge. And if any of you looked at the video link I shared, you can actually see people walking along this ridge. And you get over here, and this is where we were standing when you see the pictures and video from the volcano. You'll hear some sounds in the video. Some of the sounds is wind sound, and some of the sounds is the volcano. The volcano tends to be the lower thumpy sounds, and the wind sounds are the higher sounds. This is actually a more recent picture. When we were there, the lava was just up here, and then it broke through a dike, and it filled in this whole area. So you can see it's still quite active. This is a first one of our pictures. We were just climbing up that hill when some of the fountaining event went off, and I've got a video of this later you can see. This is one of our selfies, from right there at the volcano. You can see it's not in its biggest mode, but it's going off. Claire was a little cold while we were on that hill, so we limited our time there. But this is me taking a video of actually you can see later in the video of the lava flow there. This is one of the big fountaining events, so you can see the lava shooting up and landing there, and the gases and ash went up in the air, and then eventually it fell down on us. So you'll see that in one of the videos. This is one of my close-ups. Here's the first video. I think this is the one I was taking when Claire took a picture of me. So you can see the lava flowing there, and you can hear that thumping sound. You can also hear the wind sound. It was kind of windy that day, which is fortunate for us because it blew the nasty gases away. I think eventually zoom over here. Yeah. So now you can see the lava flowing along. This is down below the hill that we were on. And it wraps around that hill and goes into that big lava field that's behind there. They show that, you know, it's closed off to people. This is the video from that selfie. Oh yeah, this is fun because it shows the ash. I don't know if you can see coming down on us. Here they come. That's all this volcanic ash coming down on us. It's not very heavy, and it cooled off before it came down, landing on top of us. This is one more video, and this shows the smoke kind of blowing toward us. When it went off, it, you know, went up in the air, and you see a couple of other people on that hill there. That cloud is coming right over us. That's not good. So that was mostly the volcano. Claire was kind of cold, so we went down, warmed up by the lava field there. That's me by the lava field. And then we went to our next hotel at Seljalandfoss. This shows where we went on our second sort of driving day there. We were staying down here at Seljalandfoss. We drove up and we did snorkeling in this crack in this beautiful clear water between the Eurasian plate and the North American plate. Then we drove on up to this beautiful waterfall Gullfoss up here, and then down to this thermal river, this natural river that Claire really loves. Here we are getting our dry suits on. There's a selfie with the two of us right there at Silfa. That's the crack behind us, and we were all suited up there. And then here we are in the water. Our host, Clarence, I think was his name. He was from Malaysia. He took the pictures for us. And you can see down into that crack, beautiful clear water. It wasn't easy to dive down because we didn't have weight belts on, but if you kicked really hard, you could get down there. And then here's Claire going down. And we had one other guy from Hawaii that was snorkeling with us. I take one more picture heading down. Then this shows what the Silfa area looked like from above. This area is actually well known to people in Iceland because it's where they had their early governmental meetings in this crack over here to protect them from the snow and blowing wind. But where we were in this little area over here where they suit you up and then you go off into this crack over here. And that's the Eurasian continental plate over there, and we were standing on the North American plate. So this is what I thought was the most beautiful waterfall in Iceland. This is Gullfoss, and so there's Claire standing there. We got a little rainbow, and this drop is just awesome. I mean, the waterfall comes along in kind of a cascade, and then it just drops into this chasm. It's beautiful water, and there Claire is standing by that chasm. Then we went off and did this hike to this hot springs, and this is a pretty long hike for a 72-year-old guy with a bad knee. So we were looking back, and I'm like, oh my God, go along this long hike. When we got there, it was worth it. It was a beautiful area, and you could kind of choose how hot you wanted the water to be. You know, if you went upstream, it got hotter, and downstream, it got colder. And you could see we were the only ones there. You know, it was still Iceland to ourselves. And, you know, there I am in it. And you could only stay in so long. It was pretty hot. And so I was out cooling off on the deck there, and Claire enjoying it. And that's what the deck looks like. And then here we are with a little selfie, you know, the two of us. So that was a very fun father-daughter event. The next day, we started from Seljalandfoss. We went down to this waterfall you can see behind. And we spent a fair amount of time in the area of Vik, where we took a four-wheel drive vehicle to some ice caves, and we did some birding down here. And then we went to our favorite hotel, the Magma Hotel. So, oh, this is just a picture of me doing my car stuff. And then here we are behind this waterfall that you can kind of get in behind. And then here's this old guy telling us about Katla. You know, he drove us out on the glacier. So it's quite an interesting. In fact, I think this is Claire's video of the drive on the glacier. Let's see, we're actually going down a hill, and this looks like it's land with snow on it, but it's actually dirt on top of a glacier that's ice. And this shows the magma chamber for Katla. This one to the left is the volcano that went off in 2010 or 11 when Yvonne got stuck in Great Britain. And usually when this one goes off, Katla goes off later, but Katla hasn't gone off yet, and everybody's waiting for it to go off. Well, we went and toured these ice caves, and this is sort of an old ice cave that's kind of falling down, so they have the danger sign there, but we got to go in and look around, and this is kind of what it looks like inside. You get this kind of greenish color, and there's a selfie with the two of us. You can sometimes see, you know, rocks in the ice in there, so that's what that looks like. And this is again this old one, and then here's the newer one that's a smaller cave. So these guys have to keep finding new caves as they fall down, and so we got to see two of them while we were there. This guy was very excited to have tourists again, because there have been no tourists for so long in Iceland. Here we are going into one of these smaller caves. So then after the ice cave tour, we went out to the coast, and I don't know if anybody can see anything in this image, but they have a little game you play. You walk in with your back to the entrance to this cave, then everybody turns around together and they say, "What do you see?" And what you're supposed to see is Yoda. But one of the fun things about this cave is when the Vikings came, this cave used to be on the coast. And so they would bring their boats up here and park at the entrance to this cave. And when Katla went off, it sent a devastating flood out, and it moved the coast 2 or 3 kilometers. So now it's way out here, and this cave is no longer on the coast. So after we went to that cave that's here, then we did some birding, and then we went up to our favorite hotel. So here's the black sand beaches there at that famous spot whose name I won't try to pronounce. We got to see some puffins up there. We had a fun puffin experience. At first, we thought we might not get to see them, but then we saw some with our binoculars. And then at one point, one landed about 10 feet from Claire, and she looked down, and oh, suddenly there's this puffin there. So we had a fun time with the puffins. There's some more and more puffin pictures, and that's kind of a zoomed in one. Then we went to our favorite hotel. This was the Magma Hotel. It had these turf roofs, and we got to have our own little lake there. These are Eurasian oyster catchers. We did a lot of birding while we were there and enjoyed the birding. And this hotel is actually not far from Loki, the really big volcano in Iceland that last went off in 1783 and devastated the country and the world. Here I am in the morning at our Magma Hotel with our little lake by the side there. And then this was our next day from Magma Hotel past these glacial lakes that you'll see here. So there's two lakes. This is them in close up. This one is closer to the calving face of the glacier, and this is further away, so the lake is prettier blue. This is from above these glacier lakes. And then here we are sitting by the first of these, and I've got a selfie with the two of us, so you can see the glacier there where it's calving off, and then these icebergs come out. And there's the hat that I'm wearing now, actually, a Yale hat for Claire's past and future education. And then here's Claire sitting, contemplating the calving icebergs. This is the next area with the larger lake and the bluer water. And we spent a lot of time at this place looking at the seals in the water and the birds. And it's just a very beautiful place. And then we got to go to the Diamond Beach where the icebergs, they go out into the ocean, then they wash back in on the shore. And this is, one of my handstand pictures. He's coming in. Come wave, come. Come wave, whoa. Okay. One little time. Okay, run. So this is what that looked like, with these melting icebergs sitting on shore. And then Claire got in her handstand on this other side that we walked over to. And then the beach was very nice because it was black sand and it warmed up in the sun. And Claire insisted that we take our shoes off and we walk on the warm sandy beach. So we did that. And here she is with that bridge in the background, and that's the lake, and here's some of the diamonds. Then this next day was fairly short trip. We kind of went off script and went to some of the fjords from Glacier House. You can see it's by its own glacier. This is actually the Hoffel Glacier, and I've got a picture from the air. This is not my picture, of course, but this is from the air what that glacier looks like. There was a guy staying with us who went and kayaked this glacier the next morning. And here we are, and there's that glacier in the distance, and here's our car, and we're having breakfast. But we go off and we make that trip, and I'm doing some video along the trip. And then we went through the mountains and got snowed on, and here we are at our next hotel where we got snowed on a little bit. And here are some hooper swans that are in the little lake there that we're watching. But in many of those places, we got to go in these lovely hot springs. And so here I am. This particular place was by a lake where you got to climb out of the hot water and climb right into the cold water. So I put in a picture of that. And our next day was our most adventurous drive, almost 6 hours of driving, because we wanted to go up and see this gannet colony up here, which is, there are only a couple of them that are on the mainland of Iceland. And so we wanted to go up and see that. And then we went to Húsavík, where we had a fun time for a couple of nights. So here's the picture about the gannet colony. And this is this observing platform. You can actually see some of the gannets flying around out here. But this is what they look like on this rock that they live on. And I got a close up here. And this actually shows some Brunish's guillemots that were also sitting there with the gannets. And so we got all the way out there, and we were driving back to Húsavík when, boom, our tire finally went flat for the first time. We dealt with tire issues this whole trip. We had 5 flat tires during this trip, and this was the first one that went completely flat. And this is, volcanic rock there in Iceland that poked the hole in this tire. And we had this very nice young guy that helped us change the tire in one of these little towns before we finally got driving on. And then we arrived at the air pump in Húsavík. But after that, we got to go to the lovely so-called Geo Spa. So this is actually salt water. And it's just beautiful up there. You're on a cliff and you've got the mountains in the background, and you're sitting in the hot water there. And so I got to relax after all the tire changing and air pumping and all that stuff. And here we are with a selfie, and Claire, really enjoyed this place and took some of these pictures. And I thought this is a very artsy picture of her, with her legs up on the edge and the birds flying in the background, the sun in the background. And here we are in the steam room there. And also in Húsavík, there was this very fun little trail there, had little walkways on it. And Claire's holding up the bird book that was our Bible while we were there looking at all the birds. And here are a couple of harlequin ducks, or a few harlequin ducks that are very pretty, and they don't have in our area here in California. And here's European widgeon, and with some mallards and harlequins. And I don't emphasize the bird watching part of this trip, but we saw pretty much all the birds we wanted to see, except for the red-throated phalarope we missed while we were there. But then this is the waterfront in Húsavík. You see a square rigger there. They have whaling trips and everything. And this is this famous church in Húsavík. If you ever watch the Fire Saga movie, you'll see this highlighted in the movie, the Will Ferrell comedy. And here's our hotel right back in here. And we ended up getting snowed on later in Húsavík also. But we eventually decided to try to make this loop around here because we wanted to see the waterfall at Dettifoss, and we really wanted to visit this birding area down at Lake Mývatn. So we planned this trip, even though we still had a leaking tire. And so I think I used that air pump in Húsavík about 6 times to try to keep the tire inflated so it wouldn't go down on this trip. So we got to Dettifoss, and it had been snowing. And so we took this hike through the snow, and then we got a picture of the waterfall there. Then we got down to Lake Mývatn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, probably not, but and it had these fun volcanic tuffs there. We got in a lot of bird watching, and here's Claire coming back with the bird book and her binoculars. And you can see all the birds there. So it was really a nice birding area, and we got to see a lot of the birds we've been looking for. These volcanic tuffs. And then here was a big day for Claire because we were going to get to go horseback riding on the Icelandic horses. We first got time to go down and visit the Godafoss waterfall, and then we're going to go horseback riding. And this is where we spent the night in our hotel the next day. And so here we are at Godafoss, getting snowed on a little bit, not quite as bad as at Dettifoss, but beautiful waterfall you can see in the background. And of course, we were there early in the spring, so there's a lot of water at all these waterfalls. We finally, stopped looking at waterfalls. There were just so many on the side of the road. Claire really loved these horse 300-meter signs along the side of the road where you can see the tolting Icelandic horses. And this was a geyser we stopped at. And then finally we got to the Icelandic horseback riding. And so this was a big thing that Claire had been looking forward to. And we arranged this ahead of time. And this lady, Evelyn Jöder, she's actually German, but she moved to Iceland and married a guy there. And she had this tour all set up with the audio thing. And they built this sort of old fashioned with stones and turf and a little Icelandic house and stable. And this is kind of what it looks like. And you could just imagine being in this thing in the winter, with 4 feet of snow out and the sun not coming out because it's an Icelandic winter, and just gives you the feeling of being there. And this is the kind of herringbone pattern at the back of this place. But the treat for Claire was getting to ride these Icelandic horses. And this is kind of a seminal moment because she was wondering, how do I ask for a tolt? Well, it turns out you don't ask for a tolt. The horse just does it. When you say go a little faster, and he says, oh, this is a tolting speed. And she didn't realize, but she was actually tolting at this point. You can see the horse's hooves, 2 on each side going forward and back. And there she is, getting her lesson. And we eventually settled on these horses to go out, out on this trip that we went out for a couple of hours. And you see I've got my hero cam on there, but this was the best video that I thought I'd share from this. This was Evelyn taking this video of the tour of us tolting along on our little Icelandic horses. And this grass that you see there is the grass that's basically all over Iceland. It's the only thing that keeps those horses alive. You can kind of see it in the background there. Then this is our kind of last full day on the road before heading back to Reykjavik. We went up and wanted to see some seals up there. We missed the seals here, but we got over here and saw some seals. And we took kind of a back road to this place where there was a nice seafood restaurant. We had our last tire blowout right here as we were about to climb a mountain famous for getting one of your wishes. We should have wished for no tire blowouts. But so here's the place we went to see the seals. There's Claire looking out with her binoculars at the seals. This is what it looked like through the binoculars, and the seals were as interested in us as we were with the seals, and they came off and took a look at us. They were out on an island sort of warming themselves out in this area, but then they came and looked at us, and here are the seals coming and watching us, and there they are out on the island. And then we went over to go to that seafood restaurant. We had the tire blowout, so that was an opportunity for Claire to visit with this little dog here that came out. It was somebody's front yard that we were actually doing our tire repair in front of, and so Claire visited with the dog while I was doing the tire repair. And then this is this beautiful town whose name, well, it's Stikkish Holmur, my only attempt to pronounce an Icelandic word. And we were up by this lighthouse up here on this volcanic tuff before we went and had our very nice meal there, our last seafood of the day. And then we went out to this peninsula here, did a little more birding. We drove back to Reykjavik, and we got a chance to do some shopping in Reykjavik. These are the ice and fire necklaces that we got for all the lady folk. Claire really enjoyed the feeding the ducks, and this is a great-eyed goose that she got to feed there in Reykjavik. Big smile. And we brought back a little Icelandic hat there for Faye's boyfriend, Tristan, and basically that was our trip around Iceland. Nice to see you all. I don't know if I'll ever, oh, Roberta got on too. Hi, Roberta.
Yeah, I'm on, and it's fantastic. So it's really nice watching all this. Makes you want to go.
We had a really great time. It was Iceland to ourselves. You know, we very seldom saw more than 2 or 3 other people.
How long were you there altogether?
Almost 2 weeks. I think 12 or 13 days. So we got there on the 2nd. I think we left on the 14th. So yeah, 12 days there.
Yeah, the volcanoes were wonderful. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting to be there. And you can still see, you know, there's a webcam there. You can see it. I think it's still doing that cycling of 7 minutes off and then a minute on when it comes on and it fountains up like that. I say we were really lucky to get to see that while we were there. You know, some people go down on the face of the lava and they heat hot dogs and things. You can see some of that sort of stuff. Claire probably would have enjoyed that, but we were getting cold there and we hoofed it out of there to get to the hot springs.
Well, that was a really great introduction to Iceland. I got to go to many of the spots that you have mentioned, but not all of them. So it was great to see the rest.
Yeah, well, I'll have to hear about some of the spots you saw that we didn't. So, yeah, so we went around counterclockwise, I guess, and that seemed to work for us. I mean, there's a lot of places we would have liked to visit up in this peninsula and some of the fjords. And I mean, there's just so many fun places in Iceland. This Malaysian guy who was our tour here at Silfa, when we did the diving, he recommended, you know, driving through the middle of the country, but it was still pretty snowy. And even though we had 4-wheel drive, we didn't want to take a chance on doing that. So
who had the idea to go to Iceland in the first place?
Well, that was so, you know, Claire was graduating from med school, and so I told her she could go anywhere in the world. And so we started having this conversation, and we considered doing some scuba in Egypt, and Yvonne nixed Egypt. She thought it was too dangerous.
Yeah.
And so we had talked about Iceland and the fact the volcano was going off, and Claire had wanted to go there, and the Icelandic horses for the tolting and everything. So ultimately we decided Iceland was it. So that's how we decided.
That was charming. It was very nice. It was a real treat. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Congratulations.
Bye.
Claire, on all your successes.
Bye now.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much, Roberta.
Ciao, ciao.